Mama, why is that man looking at you like he has seen a ghost? Milo's voice carried across the frozen road, and Aloan hardly forgot how to breathe. 20 feet away, Alpha King Callum Vane stood motionless beside his horse. His attention dropped from Aloan to the little boy holding her hand, and she saw the moment he noticed Milo's silver-gray eyes. The same eyes Callum saw in his own reflection. 5 years of hiding suddenly felt useless. Aloan, her name left him like something he had been afraid to say for too long. She pulled Milo closer. Minutes earlier, the royal procession had been passing through the northern village when Milo spotted a young wolf limping beside the road. He hurried toward it before Aloan could stop him. She rushed from their weathered cottage, calling his name, never imagining that one word would reach the man she had spent years avoiding. Callum looked older now. The silver crest of Blackridge rested against his dark winter coat, and the crown had given him a controlled stillness she did not remember. Yet she recognized the man beneath it. She remembered candlelit conversations, quiet promises, and a tomorrow that never came. "You are alive," he said. There was no anger in his voice. Somehow that hurt more. Aloan had imagined this moment through countless sleepless nights. Sometimes Callum accused her of abandoning him. Sometimes he passed without recognizing her. In the dreams she feared most, he discovered Milo. None had prepared her for the pain on his face. Callum took one step forward. Aloan stepped back. He stopped immediately. "I searched for you," he said. "Every territory, every border settlement, every report carrying your name." Her fingers tightened around Milo's mitten. The knowledge should have brought relief. Instead, it opened a door she had spent years forcing shut. "Mama," Milo whispered. "Do you know him?" Aloan looked down at her son. His cheeks were pink from the cold, his chestnut hair escaping beneath his wool cap. Everything about him belonged to the quiet life she had built except those unmistakable eyes. "I used to," she answered. Callum absorbed the words without defending himself. Milo studied him with fearless curiosity. "Are you really the Alpha King?" "Yes. Mama says kings have too many people telling them what to do." A faint smile almost reached Callum's face, then disappeared as Milo stepped fully into view. He studied the boy's features, and Aloan knew what he was beginning to calculate. She turned toward the cottage. "We should go inside." "Aloan, please." Callum did not command her to stop. He did not invoke his crown. Still, she paused. "I thought you were gone," he said. Aloan kept her back to him. "You were supposed to." Silence settled behind her. He had heard the difference. "Not I wanted to leave. Not I chose another life. You were supposed to." Milo frowned, glancing between them. Then he tugged gently on Aloan's hand and touched his own face beneath one eye. "Mama, what is it?" He looked directly at Callum. "Why does he have eyes like mine?" Aloan could no longer move. Behind her, Callum drew a slow breath. The secret she had carried out of Blackridge 5 years earlier was now standing between them in snow-covered boots, waiting for an answer. 5 years earlier, Aloan Hartley had believed there was no safer place in the Northern Territories than beside Callum Vane. Blackridge Palace had not yet learned to call him king. At 28, he was still the crown heir, carrying the expectations of powerful pacts that measured every decision he made. Aloan belonged to another world. She was an Omega from an ordinary family who worked in the palace healing rooms, preparing herbs, changing linens, and assisting senior healers who rarely remembered her name. Important people often passed without seeing her. Callum never did. Their relationship began with quiet conversations after difficult council meetings. He would arrive carrying decisions he could discuss with no one, and Aloan would place warm tea beside him without asking for explanations. She never praised his title or treated his authority as sacred. Once, finding him alone after midnight, she simply said, "You are allowed to be tired, Callum." He had stared at her as though no one had ever given him permission to be human. Somewhere between those evenings, trust became love. But Callum's coronation depended upon alliances Garrick Vane had spent years negotiating with the strongest northern pacts. Until the crown formally passed to Callum, Garrick remained acting regent and controlled much of the palace administration, including official correspondence. Callum promised their secrecy would end after his coronation. On their final evening together, they stood beneath the old cedar behind the palace chapel while snow drifted through the branches. "Tomorrow changes everything," Callum said. "That sounds more like a warning than a promise." "It is a promise. When the crown is mine, I will not hide you anymore. Aloan almost told him then. Earlier that week, the palace healer had confirmed that she was carrying Callum's child. Her hand moved toward her stomach, but the palace bells sounded, summoning him to the final council session. Tomorrow, she whispered. Tomorrow, he promised. Less than 2 hours later, Aloan entered her chamber and found Garrick waiting beside a sealed document. You know, she said. About the child? Yes. Garrick explained that several pacts supporting Callum expected a politically advantageous royal match. An unknown Omega carrying the future heir could fracture those alliances. Then Callum can decide whether they are worth keeping. Callum will not be given that choice. Garrick pushed the document toward her. The royal seal gleamed in the candlelight. You will leave through the eastern gate before sunrise. No, until he is crowned. Every official message reaching Callum passes through my office. Every royal courier leaving Blackridge is recorded under my authority. If you contact him, I will know. Aloan stared at the seal. He would never agree to this. Then ask yourself why that document carries the authority of Blackridge. It was a careful deception. Garrick never said Callum had approved the order. He allowed fear to complete the lie. And if I refuse? Garrick's attention lowered toward her stomach. You are carrying something far more vulnerable than a crown. Aloan understood exactly what he meant. Before dawn, she left Callum's necklace on her table, packed one bag, and walked through the eastern gate while Blackridge prepared for a coronation. She believed disappearing would protect her unborn child. What she did not know was that Garrick had prepared for Callum to search for her. By sunrise, the same man who had forced Aloan away would be controlling the first investigation into her disappearance, and every road he gave Callum would lead in the wrong direction. The question followed Aloan all the way to the cottage. Milo walked beside her, carrying the young wolf carefully beneath his coat, while Callum remained near the road. Even after the door closed, she could feel the past waiting outside. Mama. Milo placed the wolf on a folded blanket beside the fireplace. You did not answer me. Aloan knelt to examine its leg, buying herself a few seconds. Some people have similar eyes. Milo frowned. That similar? A knock interrupted her. Aloan opened the door halfway. Callum stood several feet back, deliberately leaving space between them. May I speak with you? Not today. His attention moved briefly toward Milo. How old is he? Her grip tightened on the door. That is not a question you have the right to ask. Perhaps not. But I need to know. Milo appeared beside her. I am 4. Aloan closed her eyes. I will be 5 in 3 weeks, he added proudly. Callum said nothing, but she knew the calculation had begun. She had disappeared 5 years earlier. Milo was nearly 5, and the silver-gray eyes of the vain bloodline rarely appeared outside the family. Milo, please check the wolf's water. The boy hurried toward the fireplace. Callum waited until he was farther away. Is he my son? Aloan's pulse quickened. You need to leave. I will if you ask me to. But I cannot pretend I did not notice what is in front of me. She stepped outside and nearly closed the door behind her. You found me after 5 years. That does not give you 5 years of answers in 5 minutes. Something in his expression softened. You are right. She had prepared herself for anger and authority. An apology was harder to defend against. I searched for you from the morning you disappeared, Callum said. Garrick supervised the first searches. Because he was still managing the transition after my coronation. He brought reports from western settlements, then the southern territories. Every few weeks, there was another possible sighting. Cold moved through Aloan. Garrick led the search. For almost 2 years, Callum seemed to hear the memory differently as he spoke. Another witness. Another village. Another trail I had supposedly missed. Aloan remembered fleeing south before Miriam eventually helped her disappear farther west. Callum had been sent in circles while Garrick knew which gate she had used. After 2 years, I stopped trusting those reports and sent my own investigators, Callum continued. By then, there was nothing left to follow. There was never supposed to be. His attention sharpened. What does that mean? Aloan glanced through the window at Milo kneeling beside the wolf. You are not the only person searching for me. Who else? I am not discussing this where Milo can hear. Callum nodded. Then tell me when you are ready. You are not going to order me? No, you are the Alpha King. That does not make your story mine to command. Before Aloan could answer, Milo opened the door. Are you mad at Mama? Callum lowered himself closer to the boy's height. No, you look sad. Milo reached into his pocket and offered him a small wooden wolf. You can hold this. It helps sometimes. Callum accepted it carefully. Thank you. When Milo went back inside, Callum studied the carving in his palm. I will stay at the village inn. No guards outside your home. I will not take Milo anywhere or question him without you. Aloan searched his face. Why? Because something taught you to fear Blackridge. He stepped toward the road, then looked back. And if Garrick was searching for you too, I need to know whether he was trying to find you for me, or making certain I never did. By sunrise, Callum had moved the royal procession to the village inn. No guards appeared outside Aloan's cottage. No messenger arrived carrying an order demanding her presence. Instead, when she stepped outside with a basket of dried herbs, she found the Alpha King nearly 50 yards down the road helping an elderly farmer secure a fence damaged by winter wind. His royal coat hung over a post, and snow covered his boots. Milo appeared behind her. Kings fix fences? Aloan watched Callum lift the final rail into place. This one apparently does. Callum noticed them, but did not approach. That restraint continued through the next several days. He carried medicine from the royal supply wagons to the village healer, helped clear snow from paths leading to isolated cottages, and joined several villagers when a merchant's cart became stuck near the bridge. He never announced what he was doing or used it as an excuse to speak with Aloan. Milo had fewer reservations. Callum says the North Trail freezes first because it gets less sunlight. Callum showed me a knot that stays tight when it gets wet. On the fourth morning, Aloan lowered her spoon. When are you having these conversations with him? Milo considered the question. When you are helping people. Are the guards there? Always. Aloan relaxed slightly. Callum had kept every promise made at her door. That afternoon, she found him repairing the loose hinge on her gate while Milo built a snow fort nearby. You cannot stay here forever, she said. I know. Blackridge needs its king. My council can manage routine matters for several more days. Then I return because it is my responsibility. His answer surprised her. He placed no burden on her to decide whether he stayed or left. Before she could respond, a woman called from the cottage across the road. Little Clara Bennett had developed a fever. Aloan spent nearly an hour preparing herbs and reassuring the child's worried grandmother. When she emerged, daylight was fading. Callum stood near her gate listening while Milo described plans for the greatest snow fort in the Northern Territories. For a moment, he looked almost ordinary. Not a king surrounded by ceremony. Just a man giving a child his complete attention. Milo soon ran inside, leaving them alone. Callum watched the cottage door close. There was never anyone else. Aloan's chest tightened. Is that what you believed? Sometimes. Other days I believed you were hurt or hiding somewhere I had. Failed to search. While Garrick kept giving you places to search. Callum nodded. During the first year, he sent parties more than 300 miles west. The following spring, witnesses supposedly saw you near the southern border. None of them were real. I do not know yet. But whenever I wanted investigators sent east, Garrick insisted the eastern records had already been verified. Aloan felt the old fear return. I left through the eastern gate. Callum's expression changed. And he knew that. He arranged it. The implication settled between them. Garrick had known the correct road while directing Callum everywhere else. That was not the only thing he controlled, Aloan said. What else? Letters. Couriers. Messages entering Blackridge. Callum waited without pressing her. Aloan finally met his gaze. You have spent 5 years asking why I left you. Her voice trembled, but she did not look away. That was never the right question. Then what was? Aloan glanced toward Milo through the cottage window. Why did Garrick need me gone? Garrick knew about Milo before you did. Aloan's words seemed to drain the warmth from the winter afternoon. Callum remained beside the gate, but his attention narrowed entirely to her. Tell me what happened. It was not an order. That mattered. Aloan drew a slow breath. 2 hours after you left me beneath the cedar, Garrick was waiting in my room. He knew I was carrying your child. Callum's hand fell from the gate. How? I never found out. The palace healer knew. Perhaps Garrick saw the records. Perhaps he was already watching me. She folded her arms against the cold. He said the northern alliances depended on you making a politically acceptable match. An unknown Omega carrying the future heir could fracture those alliances before you were crowned. I would have chosen you. I know that now. The answer stopped him. Garrick was acting regent. He controlled official correspondence. He showed me an order bearing the royal seal and said every message reaching you would pass through his office. Understanding hardened Callum's expression. The seal was not proof that I approved it. I was 23, frightened, and carrying a child I had learned about only days earlier. Garrick knew what the seal would make me believe. What did he say about the baby? Aloan hesitated. He said Blackridge was dangerous for anyone who threatened those alliances. If I contacted you, whatever protection surrounded my child would disappear. He threatened our son, without saying enough to leave a clean accusation behind. Milo moved inside the cottage, and both of them glanced toward the window. So I left. Aloan continued. I thought losing you was something I could survive. I would not gamble with my child. Callum lowered his head. And the necklace? I left it because Garrick wanted you to believe I had chosen to disappear. He thought that would stop you from searching. It did not. No, Callum lifted his gaze. Did you ever try to contact me? 3 months later, I wrote you a letter. Surprise crossed his face. You wrote to me? 6 pages. I told you about Garrick, the baby, and where I was staying. I never received it. I never sent it. Aloan looked toward the mountains. The night before I planned to give it to a courier, I recognized one of Garrick's former palace men in the settlement. He was asking about a pregnant Omega traveling alone. Callum understood before she finished. You knew he was still searching, and I knew a letter could lead him directly to us. Miriam helped me move. She changed the name on the village records and kept me hidden until Milo was born. Every time I considered contacting Blackridge afterward, I heard Garrick was still beside your throne, receiving couriers and advising the crown. Callum turned toward the cottage. Milo was arranging wooden animals beside the recovering wolf, unaware of the history surrounding him. Aloan, Callum said softly. Milo is mine, is he not? There was no demand now, only a father asking for the truth. Aloan felt the final wall inside her give way. Yes, he is your son. Callum closed his eyes briefly. I missed everything. You did. His first word. His first steps. Every birthday. She did not soften the truth. He absorbed it without asking her to. Then Aloan added, but Garrick lied about one more thing. Callum looked at her. What? Leaving Blackridge was supposed to keep us safe. Her attention returned to Milo. It did not. Someone followed me. Aloan brought Callum inside and retrieved a narrow wooden box from beneath a stack of winter blankets. From it, she removed a folded sheet of paper worn soft along the edges. Dark wax remained pressed into one corner. Callum recognized the seal immediately. A wolf beneath 3 stars. Garrick Vane's personal mark. Miriam found this after helping me leave the mountain settlement, Aloan said. One of the men searching for me dropped it near the boarding house. Callum unfolded the message. The instructions were brief. Aloan was to be located after crossing the eastern boundary. Her return to Blackridge was to be prevented. Any information concerning a child was to remain outside the royal court. While he was sending me west, his own people were following you, Callum said. Aloan nodded. Garrick had not simply hidden her departure. He had controlled both sides of the search. Before sunset, Callum sent 2 investigators he trusted personally to find Miriam Cole and examine the old palace records. Nothing concerning Aloan, Milo, or the investigation was to pass through Blackridge's regular correspondence network. 2 days later, Miriam arrived with another witness. Nathan Mercer had served as a royal guard during Callum's coronation and left palace service shortly afterward. Inside a private room at the village inn, Nathan placed a leather folder on the table. Lord Garrick controlled the eastern gate that night, he said. He ordered Miss Hartley's departure removed from the official ledger. Callum opened the folder. Copies of gate records, patrol assignments, and search reports filled several pages. Nathan pointed to 3 entries. These witnesses never existed. Explain. Garrick instructed officers to create sightings in western settlements. Later, he redirected investigators south. Requests to search east were marked already verified. Callum stared at the reports he had once trusted. For almost 2 years, I thanked him for helping me find her. Nathan lowered his gaze. I am sorry. Miriam rested a hand over Aloan's. She explained how she had found Aloan exhausted after weeks of traveling, and then noticed strangers asking about a young Omega matching her description. Miriam moved her to Cedar Hollow, changed the local records, and avoided royal couriers until Milo was born. Nathan opened the final section of the folder. 3 members of the former royal council had knowingly assisted Garrick. One authorized false search expenses. Another altered correspondence logs. A third kept reports concerning Aloan away from Callum's private office. They will be investigated separately, Callum said. Evidence for each person. No collective punishment. And Garrick? Aloan asked. Callum closed the folder. The same law applies to him. If this evidence proves what we believe, he will answer before the Royal Pact Tribunal. His family name will not protect him. Aloan studied him. Once, everyone had feared Callum's strength. Now she saw something more difficult to possess. Restraint. The inn door opened. A royal messenger entered, breathing hard from the winter ride. Your Majesty. Callum rose. What happened? Lord Garrick left Blackridge yesterday morning. His chambers were empty before the council realized he was gone. Who traveled with him? No one officially. But Everett Dane, one of his former household officers, disappeared the same day. Unease moved through Aloan. Callum immediately turned toward the window. Across the road, Milo was building a snow fort under the watch of 2 royal guards. Safe for now. Send Garrick's description to every border post, Callum ordered. Do not use the regular courier chain. The messenger nodded and left. Aloan understood the danger. Garrick had spent years building a network inside Blackridge's system. They had finally uncovered his past. Now they had no idea how much of that network still belonged to him. The first warning came when one of Milo's guards found a royal supply token in the snow behind the village schoolhouse. It belonged to Everett Dane, Garrick's former household officer. Everett had arrived 2 days earlier with a supply wagon using genuine papers issued. Months before Garrick fled Blackridge, he had spent those days becoming familiar to the villagers. By the time Callum learned his name, Everett was gone. So was Milo. Aloan reached the cottage and found Milo's wooden wolf on the kitchen table beside a folded message. One guard explained what had happened. Everett had approached Milo with a note that appeared to be written by Aloan. It said Clara Bennett's fever had returned and asked Milo to bring a small medicine pouch to the healer's cottage. Because Everett's papers were valid, a royal guard accompanied Milo there. Everett told him Aloan was waiting inside. As the guard stepped through the doorway and called her name, Everett moved immediately. By the time the guard realized the cottage was empty and turned back, Everett had already taken Milo to the supply wagon waiting beyond the corner. Moments later, it was heading north. Aloan opened the second message. Come to the old border chapel. Bring the original evidence. No royal escort within 1 mile. He wants the folder, she said. Then he gets it. Callum met her gaze. These are the originals, but Nathan authenticated duplicate records before we left the inn. They are already being carried to trusted tribunal officials through separate routes. Garrick does not know that. Within minutes, 2 horses were prepared. Callum ordered his guards to follow through the forest, remaining beyond Garrick's sight. He and Aloan rode nearly 8 miles through snow-covered country before dismounting half a mile from the abandoned chapel. If Milo is frightened, he tries to act brave, Aloan whispered. Then today he does not have to be brave alone, Callum said. Inside the chapel, Milo sat wrapped in a blanket near an old fireplace. Everett guarded the rear entrance. Garrick waited beside a wooden table. Mama. Milo started to rise. Stay there, sweetheart. Garrick extended his hand. The evidence. Callum placed the folder on the table. Garrick examined several pages, recognizing the original records. There will also be a written guarantee bearing your seal. Safe passage beyond the northern territories. No pursuit. No tribunal. You took a child and expect royal protection? Callum asked. I expect you to understand necessity. You need Milo because you have nothing else left. Garrick's composure tightened. Everything I did protected your crown. You sent me hundreds of miles away while your men followed Aloan. Because she threatened alliances you needed. Aloan stepped forward. Milo is not an alliance or a political problem. He is a child. Callum removed a blank sheet of parchment. Suppose I sign. What happens next? Garrick hesitated. Outside, a bird call sounded twice. The signal. The forest exits were secured. Callum set the parchment down. There will be no guarantee. Everett opened the rear door and stopped. Royal guards were waiting outside. 2 more appeared at the main entrance. No weapons were needed. Every escape route was closed. Garrick looked at Callum. I am your blood. Callum turned toward Milo. So is the child you tried to erase. Eloan crossed the room and gathered Milo into her arms. Garrick and Everett were taken into royal custody without resistance. Callum approached but stopped before touching them. "Can I?" Milo answered first, reaching out his hand. Callum took it carefully. For years, powerful men had called control protection. Today Callum had protected Eloan and Milo without taking away her choices. As she watched father and son holding hands, returning to Blackridge no longer felt like surrender. It felt, for the first time, like a decision she was free to make herself. 3 days after Milo was brought safely home, Eloan agreed to return to Blackridge. She did not return because Callum commanded it, and she did not return because anyone expected her to stand beside a throne. She returned because the tribunal required her testimony and because Milo deserved the truth about his family. Before they left the village, Callum asked to speak with her privately. "There is one decision I will not make without you," he said. "Milo's legal status." Eloan listened carefully. "Under royal pack law, I can formally acknowledge him as my son and lawful heir. That would establish his identity and inheritance rights. It would not decide where you live, make him remain at Blackridge, or give me authority over your choices. And if I say no, then nothing changes until you are ready." Eloan looked through the window at Milo playing with his wooden wolf. He should never have to hide who he is again. She turned back to Callum. "Do it." With Eloan's consent, Milo Vane was formally entered into the royal registry as Callum's son and lawful heir. In the weeks that followed, the Royal Pack Tribunal examined the original records, Nathan's authenticated duplicates, Garrick's messages, altered correspondence logs, and testimony from every relevant witness. Miriam described hiding Eloan after Garrick's men began searching the mountain settlements. Nathan explained how false sightings had sent Callum hundreds of miles from the correct trail. 3 former council members were tried separately, and each received a lawful penalty supported by the evidence against that individual. Everett Dane was also tried separately for his role in Milo's kidnapping, his participation in Garrick's private network, and his knowing assistance in obstructing the royal investigation. His cooperation with investigators was entered into the record, but it did not erase his responsibility. He received the maximum lawful sentence permitted for the offenses proven against him. Then Garrick faced judgment. The tribunal found him guilty of high treason, criminal abuse of the royal seal, falsification of official records, obstruction of royal investigations, conspiracy against the lawful heir, and Milo's kidnapping. His noble title and political privileges were permanently revoked. Any property obtained through abuse of royal office was forfeited under the law. Finally, Garrick was sentenced to permanent imprisonment without eligibility for royal pardon, the highest punishment permitted under royal pack law for the crimes proven against him. Garrick turned toward Callum. "I protected your throne." Callum remained seated. "You protected your idea of power. I made you king. You helped place a crown on my head. You did not make the man beneath it." Garrick's composure weakened. "Callum, I am your family." Callum glanced toward Milo beside Eloan. "So is the child you tried to erase." He faced the tribunal. "Let the lawful sentence stand." That evening, Eloan found Callum beneath the old cedar behind the palace chapel. Snow rested lightly on its branches. "I cannot return what was taken from you," he said. "I cannot give Milo his first steps back or hear his first word. I cannot restore the years you carried everything alone. Garrick stole those years. Yes, but I trusted him when I should have asked harder questions." Eloan studied him. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing tonight." His answer surprised her. "I am sorry. If there is ever a future for us, I want it because you choose it. Not because Milo is my son. Not because I am king." Eloan felt tears gather. "I do not know if I can forgive everything." "Then do not promise that you can. And if it takes time, then it takes time." Beneath the cedar where someone else had once stolen her tomorrow, Eloan realized Callum was finally giving it back without asking what she would do with it. 3 months later, Milo shifted for the first time beneath the old cedar tree. Nearly 6 inches of fresh snow covered the palace grounds, turning the courtyard silver beneath the morning sun. Eloan was carrying dried herbs toward the healing rooms when Milo raced past her, laughing as Callum followed several steps behind. "You will never catch me," Milo called. "That sounds like a challenge," Callum answered. Milo rounded the cedar once. On the second turn, his small form blurred beneath his winter coat, and suddenly a silver-gray wolf pup tumbled into a snowbank. Aloan dropped her basket. Callum stopped. The little wolf lifted his head, sneezed snow from his nose, and stared at them with unmistakable silver-gray eyes. "Milo," Callum whispered. The pup bounded toward him. Callum dropped to his knees before Milo launched himself against his chest, sending them both backward into the snow. Callum laughed, warm and completely unguarded. Aloan had heard the Alpha King address councils and settle disputes without raising his voice. She had never heard this sound from him. It belonged to a father witnessing something he once believed he would never see. During the past 3 months, there had been other moments like it. Callum had taught Milo to ride a pony. He had stayed beside him through a winter fever and read the same story 4 times because Milo kept asking for it again. One morning, while struggling with his boots, Milo had casually said, "Father, can you help me?" Callum paused only a moment before kneeling to tie the laces. He never asked Milo to repeat the word. He never treated affection as something he was owed. Aloan noticed the same patience in the way he treated her. He did not ask when she would become Luna. He did not enter her rooms without permission. He never used Milo, the crown, or their history as an argument for reconciliation. He simply remained present. Day after day, some apologies were spoken once. The meaningful ones were lived afterward. Milo shifted back several minutes later, sitting bewildered in the snow while Callum wrapped his oversized coat around him. "Did you see me, Mama?" "I saw everything." Milo grinned. "Father says I was fast." Aloan glanced at Callum. "Your father is biased." "I am the king," Callum replied. "My judgment is considered highly reliable, not where your son is concerned." Milo laughed and ran toward the palace, nearly disappearing inside Callum's coat. Callum watched until he vanished through the doors. "You look happy," Aloan said. "I am." His expression softened. "Sometimes I think about everything I missed." "So do I." There were years neither of them could recover. Milo's first steps would remain only Aloan's memory. His first word would never belong to Callum. Their lost time could not be repaired by pretending it had never been taken. "You are here now," she said. "I intend to keep being here." Aloan walked beneath the cedar branches. 5 years earlier, bells had interrupted them beneath this tree. She had believed they had tomorrow. By sunrise, that future was gone. Now no council waited for Callum. No regent controlled her choices. Callum approached, then stopped several feet away. Aloan smiled faintly. "Callum." "Yes." She extended her hand. His gaze lowered to it, but he waited. That hesitation meant more than any royal promise. Aloan crossed the remaining distance and placed her hand in his, gently intertwining their fingers herself. Only then did he hold on. "I cannot give you back those 5 years, she said. "I know, and I cannot promise I will forget them. I would never ask you to." Aloan looked toward the palace, where Milo's excited voice echoed through an open doorway. "But I am ready to see what comes next." Callum's expression held no victory, only gratitude. "Then we start here." Aloan rested her head against his shoulder as snow drifted through the cedar branches. Callum had come too late for yesterday. But this time, when tomorrow arrived, he would be there. Thanks for watching. If Aloan and Callum's journey touched your heart, share your thoughts below, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more unforgettable alpha romance stories.